Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to the showdown between Bretonnia, led by the Fey Enchantress, and the Dark Elves, who are going to be led by Darth Malekith, and it looks like he's going to be on his lizard limo, as the Mighty Dog Plays calls it. So without further ado, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. As far as my army goes, we're going to be trying to get a lot of value out of our knights. In the front line, we do have an entire core of the spearmen at arms with shields. They're basically just there to hold. If they have like Doomfire Warlocks or Cold One Knights, they can lend some support, and if they end up fighting Dark Elf Infantry, at least they have relatively high melee defense at 38, so they can hold for some time, but obviously they're not going to win any beauty contest. These guys are just there to hold, and they're not really going to do a whole lot of damage against Dread Spears and the Black Guard over here. So we'll see how they do. In the secondary line, I do have three groups of the Peasant Bowmen with the Pox Arrows, so just some good Overwatch fire, good against Witch Elves if they do have like Black Guard Corsairs. Corsairs do have pretty good armor, and Peasant Bowmen do have really low AP. But regardless, still the volume of fire can sometimes do some good damage, and I really do like having poison arrows. So if enemy cav or skirmishers are kind of messing around, you can poison them, slow them, and catch them with your heavy cav. On top of that, we do have two Knight Errants. So we have one group of Knight Errants up here, if I'm not mistaken, and then we have the defenders of Fleur de Lis here. Fleur de Lis, man, probably always mangle that one. But regardless, they're actually pretty good. The Knight Errants here, very cheap. I think they cost like 800 with the Regiment of Verdun, or like 850. Charge bonus of 54, 40 melee attack. They definitely hit pretty hard on the charge. So as long as you cycle charge them, they can do some pretty good work. We'll be using them to support the front line. Two groups of Grail Knights. These guys are the MVPs of Bretonnia. And honestly, even if they have like a very halberd spear heavy army, if they're not braced and you get like a lance formation charge just right in their face, they can do a ton of damage against like Black Guard and stuff like that. So two Grail Knights. We got two Paladins up in the air, the anti-large. So they're going to be hunting these Ravens Heralds over here, the Regiment of Renown of the Repeater Crossbows. And it's funny, this is actually the same guy I played a couple days ago on the channel, and he brought the Ravens Herald both games here. So he does have the Ravens Herald there. And Fey Enchantress for my Lord with the Comet of Cassandora. Not Comet of Cassandora, the Chalice of Potions. Chalice of Potions, but in this match I also do have the Awakening of the Wood. So just in case my opponent had a very heavy skirmish kiting build, which I've been just facing nonstop from Dark Elves, the Awakening of the Wood would be able to slow them down and help out a little bit. So that's it for my army. For my opponent, he's got the Ravens Herald, who are going to get a nice little shot. They definitely hit very hard. They have 58 missile damage with very, very good armor piercing, so they're going to do some damage against my Grail Knights. For his main army, very anti-cav. Entire front line is going to be Dread Spears, looks like a couple chevrons. And his secondary line is going to be all Black Guard of Nagron. Yeah, it looks like the entire back line, which is pretty savage here. He does have a Death Hag, so the Death Hag's walking on foot, I think. So that's kind of just there to melt my infantry. Malekith on his Lizard Limo. Going to be a little bit dangerous against my Cav, because Chariots really get wrecked by Cav units. But nonetheless, he should be pretty good against like Spearmen and my Archers and stuff. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. So his forces are advancing right here, and of course, I don't want any freebies for my opponent. So the Paladins of Bretonnia are going to intercept these filthy Ravens Heralds, and this should be a pretty good engagement. Paladins are very fast. Ravens Heralds are actually about the same speed, it looks like. Yeah, they're about the same speed, give or take. I think the Paladins are, 105. So they're going to be hunting. In the meantime, my Archers are going to be forming ranks here, and will be shooting at the Witch Elves in just a moment. I'm just going to be chasing the Ravens Heralds, because he has no other Archer units. So I'm just going to try and shut them down. So the Archer is now shooting in, and you can see that the Witch Elves definitely they don't have much armor at all. I think they got like 5 armor, and I think that's probably the Speedo or whatever they're wearing here. So if you look here, they got 5 armor, no missile resist. They have some physical resist, so that's pretty much the only mitigation they have, but they're just going to get taken to town by these Archers. Peasants definitely pretty happy for themselves. In the front line, though, the battle's about to start here, and I do get a huge cav charge against those Black Guard right there, and I just pull back immediately. Same thing's going to be happening on the other side in just a moment, and now the Peasants of Bretonnia, unfortunately, are going to have to actually fight, which is the moment you want to try and avoid at all costs. Thankfully, the Witch Elves have taken pretty massive damage, so the Peasants almost already paying for themselves. Looks like there's going to be a chill one going down amongst the ranks, and the Peasants of Bretonnia have now started to fight. So you can see they've dug in, and they're ready to just go fisticuffs with these Dread Spears. The Knight Errants in the back preparing a frontal charge, and the Grail Knights in the back are just going to swing around and get ready to swiggity-swooty some of those Black Guards. So hopefully they can. Here come the Grail Knights up on the formation here on the same thing, just kind of pulling back and forcing my opponent out and actually shooting down those Black Guard with my Archers, which is doing some really, really good damage. So here we go. Here's the sandwich charge. So the defenders are going to be charging in the front, the Grail Knights here from the side, and this is going to be a pretty good charge against these guys. We're not braced, and we also get a Chalice of Potions coming down and a huge Grail Knight charge, just collapsing that whole formation, just doing massive damage. So definitely very happy about that. The Enchantress is also in the center, kind of helping to hold. A little bit sloppy with her leaving her there. She could take a lot of damage, but regardless, she is helping these Spearmen hold. We just break those Witch Elves. So you can see the Grail Knights are going to be hunting them. The defenders, I left in the front line a little bit too long. A very good blade win from my opponent from Malekith. It looks like the Lizard Limo is going to be striking, driving through these Archers. I did push some spears to try and stop him, but obviously the Chariot has pretty good mass, and you can see with that swing, he does decapitate a couple Peasants. Wow, that was like, he got like 2 arms and 2 heads with that one. That was some brutal stuff. But the Witch King, definitely no joke here. He's going to be riding through the ranks, doing some okay damage. A very good blade storm. That actually wrecked my peasant bowman pretty hard. But continuing to cycle charge with the Knights of Bretonnia, so a lot of charge action in this game. You can see the Knights are going to be just lancing into these Dread Spears. So my opponent did try and turn around to meet me. But again, if they're not braced, their charge defense against large doesn't come into effect. And they're just going to take that full charge bonus, which I think is like, in lance formation, over 100, which is pretty bananas. So we get a really good charge. The Dread Spears are actually shaken from that. The peasants in the front line are buckling. I definitely left the defenders in here for far too long because I kind of wanted to have this flank held, but I think that was a pretty big mistake. The Grail Knights in the back have swung up and around, and now we're going to be using them defensively just to chase down any troops, and they're actually on the hunt for Malekith right now. So the Knights of Bretonnia are trying to pin down this angry Velociraptor here, and they should be able to get him, hopefully. So we'll see what happens. In the meantime, the peasant archers are kind of continuing to just lay fire in. The line is starting to buckle a little bit in the front. Well, the first wave of the peasants is getting very low, but I'm impressed with how long they held. These guys are definitely doing me proud. Obviously, having done almost no damage return, but still doing an okay job. The Knight Errants are being pulled back from the front line engagements. They did hold for a little bit too long, unfortunately, but they're very cheap, so it's not a huge deal. We get some huge damage on Malekith here. So the Grail Knights on the hunt, and yeah, definitely wrecking face there. And the 2 paladins did overchase a little bit on the Ravens Heralds. I thought I got him off the map, but unfortunately I didn't. I realized I need my paladins back here. This is a very close fight. I can't afford to be messing around. And the Knight Errants with another charge, they have their lances couched here. Well, it looks like they like thrust with their arms as they're going in, which I feel like would be break their arm or something. But anyways, they charge in, get a pretty good little bit of damage here on the Black Guard. You can see a couple of them are going to be sent flying, and they are reinforcing the peasant lines. It's holding and buying my more expensive cap time. Grail Knights in the back are still kind of just rampaging in lance formation, trying to find any like rear charges I can get. And here comes another huge Bretonnian charge right down the pipe, just knocking some of those guys down the hill. And man, that was a cool looking cinematic. The other Grail Knights hit from the front. These guys hit from the back. Definitely tag teaming these guys. And you can see that Malekith is starting to get a little bit beat up. And the balance of power after that charge actually did shift in my favor a little bit. Those damn Ravens Heralds are back online, which is a little bit tough. Chalice of Potions from the Fey Enchantress coming down, but she is a little bit trapped. So I got incredibly sloppy with her. I had her with peasants. I was like, ah, she'll be fine. Those peasants will defend the lady, but alas, they don't. So Chalice of Potion wrecking those guys pretty good. But nonetheless, the Fey Enchantress is surrounded and getting beaten down. So I definitely slipped up. Where I had some pretty good micro over here, I definitely failed. So another charge coming in. The Knights of Bretonnia are just hammering these guys with the charges. And it just goes to show that, you know, it doesn't matter if they have spears and halberds. If you catch them unbraced or fighting something else, you can still get massive value against those guys. It's very similar to, for any of you guys who watched the Ever Chosen Invitational we had here on the channel, it was like, I think it was a game where Johnson was playing Bretonnia against the High Elves. And they had like all Phoenix Guard, but the Knights still were able to wreck the Phoenix Guard with really good charges. Anyways, the Fey Enchantress unfortunately does fall to the halberds. She isn't able to get away, like the mass of them. I wasn't able to push out, which is really a bummer, but the balance is still in my favor because the 2 paladins were able to do some really huge damage against Malekith. You can see they're hot in pursuit here. Malekith has about 290 HP, and let's see if the Knights of Bretonnia can get in. They're chasing, and is he going to get that attack? It looks like he does, putting him down to 167. Malekith on his chariot still has 120 armor, and paladins don't have the best armor piercing, so the other paladin chasing those guys, and it does shatter him. But this paladin should be able to finish him off. In the meantime, it looks like the halberds are forming a bit of a pocket here, but I, of course, do have the mobility advantage, so my peasants are retreating. Definitely a little bit scary for them. I need these guys because I need the fire. The knights aren't going to be able to do it themselves, so I charge the Death Hag, trying to get some good shock damage. And it looks like the Death Hag is going to be popping a Witch Brew. Yeah, it looks like the Witch Brew to get a little bit stronger. So at that point, I see all the halberds coming and these other forces. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to kind of rotate over here, free up the peasants. Some of these peasants here are free. These ones are rallying. I have some spearmen coming from up the hill to intercept those black guards. So I really just need to kind of stabilize here. And the Knights of Bretonnia with another erect downhill charge. Here they come. And it looks like they're almost braced. I'm not sure. I think they actually were braced. It's hard to tell. Yeah, it looks like they might have been braced for that. That charge wasn't as devastating. But regardless, I'm going to keep charging down the hill. You can see just Dread Spears just flying as these Knights just swarm down. And essentially, now they're going to have to chase. And when they chase, I can charge them again. It's going to buy time. And now these two peasants, 39 here, 52 right here, back online. These archers are back online as well, just raining fire into the Black Guard, who do not have shields. Yes, they have heavy armor, but the volume of fire could potentially wear them down. So the Knights of Bretonnia, I'm not sure where they are. Here they are. So they're going to be charging at this blob here, keeping my opponent away from the archers, which is my ultimate goal. And now it's looking pretty grim. I'm able to reform ranks on here with the Knights and Spears, so they'll be charging up. It'll look grim for my opponent, that is. And I do have two Paladins full health, so the two Paladins will easily be able to take out the Death Hag. And now I'm able to kind of keep my opponent on guard here. So another Lance charge coming in to these guys who weren't quite braced, so that massive Bretonnian charge. This one is like probably the most like charge, what is that term called? I probably shouldn't even say that if I get too monetized, but it's just like just massive charges this game. So you can see the Blackguard and Agron are advancing. The Paladins here to smite this filthy Death Hag, so the Paladin of Bretonnia coming to rescue the peasants. So for once, the upper hierarchy here, Bretonnia is actually helping the peasants out, although they still are getting cleaved. But alas, At least they are going to be helped, as this Paladin will most likely slay this Death Hag. Although, yeah, he should. And the other Paladin's coming in to help. So yeah, the Death Hag just getting trampled here by the glorious Knights of Bretonnia. So in the meantime, the Knights just continuing to charge around. The Peasant Archers are all online, which is really bad for these Blackguard. You can see they're starting to get melted by that just overwhelming firepower. The Knights of Bretonnia just cycle away, and at that point, my opponent does bow out because he really didn't have too much of a chance. He was just going to get picked apart there. So yeah, well played. That was quite a cockfight for sure. Just massive value from those Grail Knights. 135, only 28 on the other, but huge HP damage. So it just goes to show that if you can force your opponent to kind of have to move and chase things. So that's kind of why the archers were really good, because my opponent couldn't just sit and brace. Otherwise, he was just going to take like just massive volumes of fire from those peasant bowmen. So those guys were just absolute beasts. Really sloppy play with the Knight Errants and the Fey Enchantress. I left them in combat for too long. I could have had, even better value with the Knight Errants if I had just been cycle charging more effectively. The Fey Enchantress, I assumed the peasants wouldn't break, and she was in a tough fight versus halberds, and by the time I was able to try and force her out, she was just taking so much anti-large damage from those halberds. So that was a huge mistake. But regardless, making mistakes are part of the game. Definitely a good learning lesson there, and also realize that I do need to charge a little bit more with the Knight Errants and the Defenders and some of those guys. Grail Knights, 135, 28. Like I said, generating good value. And yeah, the Spearmen, they did a solid job with the shields. I really think that's one of the ways to go in the front line. You just get the Spearmen at arms with shields, get their high melee defense, hold, and win the game with your Knights and other utility units. And I mean, for my opponent, this is a very anti-Bretonnian army for sure. The one thing I would probably cut, so Malekith on the Chariot, I'd probably put him on a Velociraptor. I think that's safer just to get some AP. I mean, you don't need chariots to really mow down Bretonnian infantry. Pretty much everything will do that. I would probably cut the Death Hag. I would cut the Raven's Heralds, maybe cut one Blackguard, and then just get some more utility, maybe some Cold One Knights or some other units, Doomfire Warlocks, to give you utility to harass archers and also to cast like Soul Stealer and Mark of Pain and that kind of stuff. So anyways, very well played to my opponent, Hase. I look forward to running into again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this Bretonnia charge game. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.